Former correctional officer is accused of sexual misconduct against inmates at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Authorities from the prison and the state started investigating Officer Gregory Rodriguez in July after learning of possible sexual misconduct involving a woman in custody there. They eventually identified at least 22 potential victims. Rodriguez retired from state service in August after investigators approached him. The case has now been referred to the Madera County District Attorney's Office to determine if criminal charges will be filed.
Just when he thought we was done, we hit him with another one. YouTube, what the deal is, right? Y'all see what's going on, man. But that ain't it. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So this video or article I'm ready to read to y'all is very graphic. I tried to PC it as much as possible. So this ain't for the kids. But the things that went on inside this woman's prison in California need to be highlighted, man, because it's a bigger issue going on in women's prisons all across the United States. And we're going to discuss that. Because this is a major problem and it can have devastating effects to these women that's involved. For real. But before I get there, make sure y'all like, comment, and share, and subscribe, man. I want to hear y'all opinions on this. You feel me? Because, like I said, yo, we all got family members. Some of us got family members that been arrested. And stuff like this going on inside these prisons is not acceptable in any way. But that's right. After pleading no contest to a felony count in Sacramento earlier this year, a 30-year-old woman arrived at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla on March 9th to begin serving a state prison sentence for the first time. As she was walking through the prison yard, she encountered a guard who asked her to pull down her N95 mask she was wearing. The guard was Officer Gregory Rodriguez, court papers say, and he informed the inmate that he loved her lips and eyes and that she was beautiful. This conduct continued with the woman and other inmates who passed through the yard until May 15th, when the woman's name was called over prison loudspeakers, court papers say. She was told to report to a hearing room inside the office for the Board of Parole hearings. A guard walked her to the offices, past video cameras recording their movements, and delivered her to Rodriguez that day. He took her into the hearing room with no cameras. There, Rodriguez started kissing the woman, grabbed her breast, and backside she repeatedly demanded he stop, then forced her to perform oral and her, according to 2 federal civil rights lawsuits filed in Fresno this month. The lawsuit describes a code of silence inside the Madera County Prison that allegedly allowed Rodriguez to prey upon female inmates until the investigation began and he was placed on leave, then retired. Prison officials now say there may be more than 22 victims, based on the investigation of Rodriguez that began in July. Rodriguez did not respond to a voicemail or text message left on the cell phone listed for him in public records Tuesday. But Madera County District Attorney Sally Moreno confirmed to the Bee that her office received the results last week of prison officials' investigation of Rodriguez and that prosecutors are reviewing it to determine whether criminal charges should be filed. She confirmed that the allegation in the investigation involved more than 2 inmates, but declined to specify how many women may be involved. It's pretty complicated, Moreno said. It's going to take us a while to get it reviewed. After the Bee asked for a comment from California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation on Tuesday, the agency issued a news release Wednesday morning confirming CDCR investigators had forwarded an investigation to Madera County prosecutors. The department resolution condemns any staff members, especially a peace officer who violates their oath and shatters the trust of the public, CDCR Secretary Jeff McComber said in a statement. We are continuing this investigation to ensure we are rooting out any employee who does not obey the law and to seek out other victims. Rockland attorney Robert Shelfaint, who filed the 2 lawsuits on behalf of the former inmates, named the woman as Jane Doe and Jane Roe in his suits and said they are terrified of retaliation and retribution. The lawsuit comes as federal and state officials nationwide are grappling with the allegations of such assaults. The week after Shelfaint filed the 2 lawsuits involving Chowchilla, a U.S. state report on federal prisons found employees had sexually abused women and inmates at least 19 out of 29 Bureau of Prison facilities where women were in prison in the last decade. In at least 4 BOP facilities, multiple women endured ongoing sex abuse for months or years, the report said, adding that 5 employees at the federal prison in Dublin, including a warden and chaplain, were indicted in the connection of charges of repeated sexual abuse to at least 8 female prisoners under their supervision. And in July 28, female inmates at a jail in Indiana claimed in lawsuit that they were attacked by a male inmate who gained access to their wing of the jail after buying the key from a guard, media report says. In the Chowchala lawsuit, both women were serving prison terms for the first time after pleading no contest to felony charges out of Sacramento Superior Court, with sentences of less than a year for each, Shelfaint said. Jane Doe was a 30-year-old inmate allegedly assaulted in May, 2 months after she arrived at Chowchala, the state's largest female-only prison with nearly 2,200 inmates. Her lawsuit says that Rodriguez threatened her during the May 15th attack, telling her he could fabricate rules violation report that could lengthen her prison sentence and result in her ending up in solitary confinement. Rodriguez grabbed Jane Doe and forced Jane Doe down to her knees to perform oral. Then he grabbed her and forced her to bend over a chair, pulled down her prison-issued pants and underwear, and awed her, the lawsuit says. Then he warned her not to tell anyone what had happened, adding that no one would believe her anyway. He instructed her to tell other guards that she had been inside the hearing room for a video conference with her attorney. She was afraid and felt hopeless and powerless to prevent future sexual assaults. She was humiliated, embarrassed, and terrified that a law enforcement officer would awe her in prison. She was also aware that no correctional officer came to stop Rodriguez, even though she knew officers had seen Rodriguez take her into the hearing room on a live video feed. When she was questioned about where she had been, the woman told 3 other guards she had been in an attorney video meeting, despite the fact that no such visit had been scheduled. One of the guards looked very surprised at her response, and the 3 went behind the closed office door to talk, but never told supervisors that the woman had been alone in the room with Rodriguez for an extended period of time. 3 days later, Jane Doe was transferred to the prison D yard, which the suit describes as the most violent and restrictive housing area at Chowchala. Good luck, you're going to need it, a guard said as she was escorted to the yard, according to the lawsuit, which says the officer is currently on paid administrative leave for sexual misconduct with female inmates at CCWF. The lawsuit says the inmate classification level required her to be placed in a low security area, but that Rodriguez was involved in the move so that he could continue to use her for his own sexual gratification. What can I do to keep you here? Rodriguez once asked her. Between July and August, Rodriguez awed the woman 4 more times and sexually assaulted her 5 or 10 other times. At some point during the inmate incarceration, acting warden Michael Polares became involved, according to the lawsuit, which names Polares as a defendant. For unknown reasons, the warden at the CCWF paroled Jane Doe prior to her release date. After Jane Doe released from CCWF on August 19, 2022, the warden personally attempted to interview Jane Doe's former cellmate about Rodriguez's sexual misconduct, even though Jane Doe had not filed a grievance or complaint against Rodriguez, as she was afraid of retaliation while in custody. Rodriguez is currently under investigation for sexual assault and are multiple women inmates at CCWF. Rodriguez was placed on paid administrative leave because the investigation has since been retired. Despite the allegations in the lawsuit about the warden, Polares denounced Rodriguez in the CDCR statement issued Wednesday. Rodriguez shamefully hid behind his badge and used it to victimize a vulnerable population, Polares said. That is one of the most apparent acts one can commit as a peace officer position, and once my investigation team uncovered his wrongdoings, I referred it to the Madera County District Attorney Office for criminal prosecution. We look forward to him being held accountable for the further extent of the law. Rodriguez began with CDCR in 1995 as a cadet and has been at Chowchala since 2010, CDCR said. Rodriguez retired from the state service effective August 25, 2022 after being approached by internal affairs investigators, the department says. The second Chowchala lawsuit involves Jane Roe, who was 20 at the time she arrived at the prison last April. Like Jane Doe, Jane Roe lawsuit says she encountered Rodriguez in the prison A yard, where duties are doled out that include cleaning the Board of Parole hearing office. Immediately upon meeting Officer Rodriguez at A yard work exchange, he began making sexual inappropriate comments, engaging in sexual harassment and sexual assault and battering Jane Roe. For example, Officer Rodriguez would physically grab Jane Roe on her breast and buttocks, and this happened on at least 10 separate occasions. Officer Rodriguez would tell Jane Roe that he wanted to have sex with her and ask her for pictures of herself. The suit says Rodriguez offered contraband, cigarettes, candy, food, and that it was clear from his tone that she needed to engage in sexual acts. By the time Jane Roe arrived at the prison, other inmates already complained to supervisors about Officer Rodriguez's sexual harassment and assaultive behavior, and the complaint had been forwarded to Polares, the acting warden. On June 8th, the inmate was summoned to the parole board hearing room, where video cams recorded Rodriguez take her inside and close the door. Officer Rodriguez informed Jane Roe that there was no cameras in the BPH hearing office and told her that he wanted to have sex with her. The suit says Jane Roe had no romantic interest in Officer Rodriguez and told him no. Officer Rodriguez walked up to Jane Roe and began forcibly trying to take off her prison-issued clothing. Jane Roe resisted his advances again and told him no, and asked him to please stop. Jane Roe did not consent to being touched, grabbed, and molested by Officer Rodriguez and made it clear to him that she did not consent to engaging in any sexual activity. Rodriguez responded by warning her that he would fabricate a rules violation report and that she would increase her sentence by 6 months and expose her to further harassment. Officer Rodriguez then forced Jane Roe to bend over behind the table in the hearing office, pulled down her prison-issued pants and underwear, and had sexual intercourse with Jane Roe. While eyeing Jane Roe, Officer Rodriguez continued watched out the BPH window to make sure no other inmates or guards were present. The inmate had been a victim of sexual assault and sexual trafficking, and the prison has forced her to relive many of the traumatic memories associated with those past events. Reliving those traumas has caused Jane Roe to suffer anxiety, depression, grief, embarrassment, humiliation, and hopelessness. Rodriguez warned the woman not to tell anyone what he had done, saying no one would believe her. The prison investigators have confirmed the video recordings show Rodriguez taking other women to the parole board hearing room and closing the door. And Rodriguez used the room to sexual assault and multiple victims. The exact number of victims is not known at the time. Like I told y'all, I said the video was graphic. Straight up. That's sickening, the things that this man was doing to these women. And I don't like the fact that they trying to hide this guy. Because I was looking for pictures of this guy because I wanted to put him on a flat screen to show the world this is who he is. But what I noticed is a lot of times you're dealing with police officers or correctional officers or anybody that's supposed to have some type of honor in their job. When they put these stories out on them, they fail to release their picture. Now, it could have been because he haven't been charged yet. But my question to them is, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? And I don't think he need to be the only person in trouble. Straight up. Because there's no way he was doing this for this many years to this many women and nobody knew about it. I mean, he was pulling them out their cell, taking them into a visiting room that was just for lawyer conferences. They knew wasn't no lawyer there. So I think this investigation need to be extended a little bit further than just him. Because there need to be some more heads need to roll behind this, man, because this is disturbing and sickening all at the same time. Imagine one of your family members calling you and telling you some stuff like that went on inside there, man. Like, yo, I would be upset, pissed. I probably went to the jail, straight up. Because these women is already in a down state. Now you got this guy over top of them trying to force them to do things that they uncomfortable with doing. It's like, what do they do? How do you defend yourself against that? Especially when you're in a system and these people pretty much got full control over everything you do. Every movement you make, a press of the button, it's on them. You gotta wait for them before you get in the shower a lot of times. And this man used this power to force himself on these women. And they protecting them. And this story is not even big as it need to be. Straight up, because this not just a problem in California. This is going on in different women's prisons all across the United States. And I really don't even like the women that men work in women's prisons. Now, I get it to a certain level. But these women gotta have some type of protection, yo. It can't just be freelance. It need to be certain areas of the jail or certain things going on in the jail where it just gotta be women correctional officers involved. Because this is wrong. Because they basically creating an environment where things like this can keep happening and then they go unnoticed until it just blow up. Or they let it persist until it blow up. But let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments, man. Is y'all surprised? Do y'all think it need to be women policing women in these jails. Straight up. Because one time I did a detail when I was locked up in the women's detention center. Not stand there, but just we go there and make drop-offs and shit like that. And these women is bitten just like the men. I'm talking about, I was in there on my time. I'm talking to this girl, she was locked up 18 years. Had me looking at myself crazy, like I'm in here complaining about what I got going on and shit. She got a long road ahead of her. I'm short for real. But, like I said, man, let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments, man. Should men be able to work in women's prison? And if they are, continue to work in women's prison, what do y'all think need to be the procedure as far as men dealing with these women? You know what I mean? Because I think something need to be in order, y'all, because if you don't, you create an environment where these things is going to happen. They're going to happen. But that don't make it right. I'm out, man.